Good morning, everyone. I'd like to first say I'm nervous, so I apologize now. I'm a librarian. I am, thank you. Thank you. I am definitely one of the people who responded immediately, hi, Neil, because, hi, my name's Suzanne. I have a problem. Anyway, so I want to first set the scene a little bit in saying that I am from the Smithsonian Institution, so that's why I talk funny. And I wanted to explain a little bit about the Smithsonian Institution because it just sort of give a little context in that the Smithsonian is a very large institution, and we cover many, many things. This was a picture taken at one of our anniversaries. And the librarians stood and read in the middle so that we could be images of the pages as well. But you remember I'm the librarian, and so what I'm really interested in is the bibliography. I wanted to look at the books that Sherborn looked at. I wanted to see what physical pieces he was looking at and make sure that we could find them. So thinking again, this was a while back, okay, we've scanned the index, and now we have the bibliography. Well, cool, let's tell them where the book is. So we were going to try to take this bibliography, and working with Courtney Shaw, a fabulous librarian who's retired recently, and I will miss terribly, attacked this. Let's find all these books, and let's find out where they are at the Smithsonian and where they are here and where they are in the world so people can then find the book. Remember, this was a while ago. And this is where, though I do adore Charles, we have problems with my pointer that those are wonderful for him. He continued to abbreviate. Now, for him, he knew what he was looking at, and for many people in your field, you know exactly what he meant. But a computer does not know what it means. And I was having a really hard time reconciling his bibliography with our metadata in library language. Again, library language versus the scientist. So I was having a little heart attack about it all. And I have been using turtles throughout my first part of this presentation because I was on the same path as Charles Davies Sherborn, sorry, full name. 43 years, easily, of reconciling just the bibliography if I was continuing at this pace. And a lot of the books to me were lost. I just could not discover what they were. And it was just so sad. I felt like one of these, poor lost little lambs. Well, that's actually a unicorn. Yes, I got a unicorn in. Okay, it's a challenge. Everyone tries to get a unicorn in. And then I was lucky enough to meet David Remsen and Patrick Leary, and this is David with hair, by the way. Look at you. And also not as gray. They were the ones that put up Neve. And they approached us. And they said, hey, we're going to parse your data for you. And I was like, wow, can you hear me across the ocean screaming happy, happy day? And what they did was they were looking at the fields that Chris just pointed out, that the specific little fields that Sherborn used, and try to use some regular expression and to parse out the data. And this is the help I really needed to get going. And here's an example of what they did. I'm hoping you can see this. You can obviously tell that cisnat was used in the index a gazillion times, or I'm exaggerating just slightly. And so they attempted to match it to the bibliography. And this is where you can see where Charles Davies Sherborn, I'm saying his full name again, it doesn't work for the computer to do the heavy lifting for me. And so obviously we know what the book is by our eyes, but matching it in the bibliography, it might not work as well. And then you have things that are complicated, where, as you can see, no match was found, when obviously we all know this series and is a very complex series, but the way he cited it made it very difficult for me to put my hands on the book, and that's what I needed to do. If not physically put my hands on the book, put it on the metadata of the book to point people to where the book was. And so this was a first step for me to figure out what to do next and how to handle these more complicated things. So what we did was, starting with our databases, that we did take the databases online and the bibliography and looked for it and created a behind-the-scene database where we were matching and pulling out the full title of the bibliography and using library resources to come up with identifiers to match the books together so that we could actually put our hands on it. So here's an example of where we were able to take his abbreviation and pull it out to a full title. And we used tools such as WorldCat, which is an OCLC database which is an international organization. It might be PICA in the Europe countries, but it's a way for us to search for these books worldwide. So we can look in the libraries at Smithsonian, but we can also look worldwide and pull some identifiers together. And then came along BHL. And so as we were moving along, BHL was being developed, and most of the people, I believe, in the audience here have heard of the Biodiversity Heritage Library. If not, you'll hear about it a lot more. But they were starting to scan the literature. So again, the project morphed, and it morphed to make it even more accessible, not just to put your hands on the metadata or point to the metadata or find what library it's in, but let's digitize it. Let's get it on the screen in your workstation wherever you are. So that's when we started to make even more connections. So the goal, of course, is to have the book scanned and to be able to connect it to the citation within Sherborn. So here's an example of where we're trying to do that exact thing by taking the index and finding the book that it referenced and then actually going to the exact page. And so you want to have the bird, I'm talking fast so that we can have other people speak. Oh, I should use something else, huh? But anyway, so I'm assuming you all could see this fairly clearly, but this is the bird, and I have to say, do a little bragging that the quality of BHL is really great. I think on many of the resources, and the detail here on the bird I think is gorgeous. Anyway, so if Sherborn is saying that every natural history library should have every book, BHL is doing that globally, trying to make it so that everyone everywhere can have the natural history library that they need. Using his index, you'll still be able to get to the books right there with a click and a go. And we've put the index in a way that anyone can get it. So we partner with Internet Archive, and so the index is available worldwide for anyone to take down and use, and available on the Smithsonian site as well. So I'd like to just sort of reiterate and be in the concept of taking what the goal is to do the linking of the data. And so to take the index citation to the page and to continue from the page to the image. And the goal is to do this in a new and fancy way. And I should say that the Smithsonian is still working on this, but this is what I wanted to talk about the future part of the talk. We are also scanning taxonomic literature, second edition, TL2. For those in the botany world, this is an amazing resource that you all use, and I found out about it because you weren't using our resources, you were using that, and then translating into library language and then going. But we're going to approach this a little bit different. Learning on the lessons that we've done from Index Animalium, we're going to be marking this up in RDF and doing it as an open-linked data set. And so the goal would be to here have an example of a botanist that's in TL2, but I have that name as a node in the typical library presentation. You have to have something with angle brackets that no one can read. So this is an example of the RDF that we're doing. But the goal would be to have the data connected and linked in RDF and have the botanist potentially be a node for people to come in and get the identifier for the botanist. But to me, it's the naturalist because the names are everywhere. So we want to be able to link the authors, whether they're in TL2 or in Index Animalium or into other resources out on the web. So the goal is to link these all together so that you can find the book, you can find the person, and have it all connected. I'm sort of rambling, but I'm hoping it kind of makes sense to some of you all. The big thing is that it needs to be available to the world. So even though Wikipedia, to some of you all, might not be the source you really want to point to, it is a source that people use. So if we connect to Wikipedia, then people who land on Wikipedia can then go to resources like TL2 and Index Animalium appropriately. But we need to have our data open and accessible in an open link data platform. So the stars of evaluating data is what we're aiming for. We're going to try to go for the 5 stars. We're not sure. But we're definitely going to try to make our data completely shareable and extensible and reusable in an international community. So we also have the objects, as you all know. So everyone here probably works actually with species. I don't. But touch the bugs. Anyway, but there are other projects out there that are connecting other ideas. And so I want to just briefly mention that there are projects right now where they're looking at finding field books, the manuscripts of people out in the field, and the species that they've collected. So they're also working on producing their data in an open linked way so that we can go from the field book and the species collected, where the species is and what repository, and then from the literature when the name is published, and connect it all into one big happy cycle of life. So a linked data lecture is never complete without the obligatory linked data slide. And this is actually a place that I really strongly suggest those who have not played with linked data to go and just click around. It's a lot of fun. But each one of these circles is a node, and what the goal is to provide more nodes in the library world, to provide more nodes, and to connect to the people who need our literature in a way that doesn't make me sad-faced when I walk into a meeting thinking everyone's going to be friends. So the future of the library, it's not going away. It's just going to be continuing to hopefully strengthen our relationship to all the people that we are providing information to. And it is going to look like this. So we do need to be able to be in this space as well. So when this library gets combined with the objects that it's describing, we need the powerful librarian. I'm not going to say we're not needed. And to make sure that we are available in bits and bytes. So I had a lot of people who have been working on this project over numerous years. As Index Animalium was first scanned and databased, we had volunteers and library staff, both Courtney Shaw, Leslie Overstreet, who's here today, and many other people, volunteers and interns who came in to help us reconcile the data. We have had a lot of other great support from many other people too. I do include some interesting sources that people might want to go to and click and link and go and see if you can discover more information. And if you have any other information that you think would help further our projects, I'm definitely open to hearing them. And I think I talked 150 miles an hour. So if there's any questions, I'm more than welcome to take them, or you can talk to me afterwards. Good.
My personal feeling is that this has already been set up in 1998 or somewhere, but I just read in your abstract that you did that in 2004. I have two comments for possible improvement of the service. The first thing is, you didn't mention it right now, but in the abstract that is published, you said that the OCR scanned X animalium at an accuracy rate of 99.995%. This is absolutely in agreement with our experience, but this is too high error. It means
yes.
one error in 20,000 characters.
Yes.
And since one line in Sherborn's index contained approximately an average of 100 characters, this means there's one error in 200 lines.
Well, not necessarily an error every line, every percentage rate that you're saying, but the goal is to understood that every time there is one error, it messes everything up.
Yeah. When we were checking this, we had weekly reunions, and the students always came with questions. There is a difference. I have checked the original source, and Sherborn said that. And what is the difference? And I had always to explain. We quickly came to the result that it was necessary. I had to tell the students, to teach them, you must
Well, you're more than welcome to take the files and do another OCR against them if you'd like, if you think you can increase that. But what's interesting about the project that we did was this was actually double keyed. So you're going to still hit some errors. It was OCR'd and then it was double keyed. So I appreciate the problem, and what we're trying to do instead is figure out a way that we can have your errors, if any errors that are found, incorporated in a more feedback in a way that's in a better loop. Right now, we have not been able to integrate the index anomalium into our overall website in a way that is to my liking or many people's likings, to be able to take corrections. And we believe in a valued community, of a knowledgeable community, to be able to tell us the mistakes that you're finding. And then when you find those mistakes, probably the ones that you found probably could be systematically found everywhere in the text. There was something that was done consistently wrong or something like that. And that is what one of the things we were learning also with the scanning of the taxonomic literature 2 edition, second edition, is to figure out a way to get this, I hate to use the word crowdsourcing because a lot of people make it sound like it's going to be my mother correcting this or my children correcting this. And no, we want it to be a valued community that knows the data to correct it. But so we're hoping to solve it in a way that would not require such heavy lifting on your part or anyone's part to have to do any kind of new OCRing or expenditures in that regard. So.
I have one more suggestion. Take 14 seconds to get an answer to the request on the internet side of the index anomalium. And is it possible to create a database structure that makes the site faster?
Well, we hope to restructure everything into the RDF framework so that it would be a different kind of delivery system overall. But you can download the whole set and serve it up yourself. It's all available to download.
The query system is good. That's perfect. We really appreciated it and liked it, and we use it, as I told you, every day, various students.
Help us find some funds to increase our pipeline. I don't know, have the answer to that. I'm a librarian, not an IT person, so I'm sorry. 14 seconds. I mean, you can yawn, stretch.